from East West Bank, Sir Japheth from Union Bank. We also have Professor Gemma from DLSU to join us. And of course, Ms. Kat is here. And can we also invite from the Manila Bulletin, Sir Philip, to join us on stage as well. Okay, so we have si Professor Gemma is here to join us. Okay, so let's just grab our seats and have this mic. One more? All right. All right, ma'am, have a seat. Okay, so again, thank you, everyone. So we'll start things off. So if anyone has any questions, again, just feel free to come up over here or ask. But just to kick things, get things started. One of the questions that we have from our students that we collected prior was, what do you think is the greatest financial challenge that this generation will face, and what can we do to prepare for it? So I guess a little...
Besides flood control, huh?
Yeah, besides flood control. I think for the Gen Xers, it was the Asian financial crisis. That was one. For me, the one I experienced was the financial crisis in 2008. Recently, thankfully, we haven't really had anything, but it's inevitable, right? The market, the unpredictability of the market, the one thing that we can always predict, that there will be dips, there will be highs, but what can we do to prepare for that? So if anyone would like to take the floor to answer that question.
I think it's a human intervention that would be very challenging to the future generation, and it's all about violation of the basic values that every human being should have. And it's all about honesty and integrity. And you know what happened to us Filipinos, being branded as very corrupt people. It's something that the new generation should really change that concept or that image. And it really starts from within. Every individual should be very conscious that it will not happen again. This flood control scandal, it affected a lot of Filipinos who do not belong to us, right? It's the people, it's the majority of the Filipinos that are really very affected. Can you just imagine people walking along the road with the flood as high as their chest? So it's really the work of man that would challenge the future generation. And I think the young ones can have an insight and reflection on that. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I go next, right? So the question is, if I could recap, right? The greatest financial challenge that we face today, is that correct? So I honestly think that it's still simple financial literacy that is the biggest challenge today. Not everybody is fortunate enough to be given a formal program to learn about basic banking solutions here in the Philippines. Maybe in Metro Manila and in certain prestigious colleges like LaSalle, right? Maybe there is a formal program to it, but in remote areas, in far-flung areas, there is still very much, there's still so much that we can do to introduce them to basic banking solutions, right? I'm sure in far-flung areas, especially me, I mean, I also go home from my province from time to time. And the banking environment there is very different from the banking environment here in Metro Manila. So I would say that financial literacy, making equitable education, right, is something that we have to work on to make sure that we level the education within the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you.
So actually, I would just more on piggyback on what she answered for that question. So really, it's the opportunity to learn about financial literacy. Of course, in our day and age, as I've also mentioned earlier, we're really transforming quite a lot. No? So there are a lot of rapid changes in the environment. So we're moving towards more digital when it comes to our banking and our finances. And with that, threats are also evolving. Cyber threats are very much present. So in as much as it was present before, no, in physical cash, it's also present with digital finance today. If the basics of financial literacy is absent, what more, how much more would it be a threat when we already move towards the digital space, wherein it would need more onboarding, more knowledge for these Filipinos to actually understand how it works in the digital landscape?
Just adding a few cents. To me, the basic, I guess it cuts across regardless of the period or regardless of the fiscal crisis we are all in. When I was working with Japet in Union Bank, I remember this because it was an eye-opener for me. We wanted financial inclusion, right? Because we wanted to teach financial literacy. So we're there. There was one blocker. We wanted a junkyard owner, basurero, because there is pera in basura. That's a very concrete way of including them into the formal banking system, so later on they will avail of the product, right? You know what's the blocker, and the banks cannot do anything about it, probably even for go time. They don't have an ID. But when we help them, because it's part of CSR, walang birth certificate. Bakit walang birth certificate? Hindi na register. So what I'm saying is it's a whole of system approach from a systemic perspective. BSP was here this morning, but probably Philippine Statistics Authority, because it starts with that. It starts with the barangay, diba? So how can you include them and how can you teach them financial literacy and put into practice what we taught them if the first blocker is they cannot open an account? Even for GCash, I think you need that ID, right? So it's just the whole thing. And then lastly, once you're able to hurdle that blocker, it doesn't end with just financial literacy. It's a support system that we need to provide. I teach you today financial literacy. Will you remember that tomorrow? Will you be able to practice that next week? In the following month, will you be able to save 20 pesos a day, add it up every day? So it's really a Ubuntu, a whole village approach. So just my thoughts out there. Maybe you guys, when you join whatever organization, when you join the government, that's a solution we need to look for.
Wonderful. If I can just follow-up question to some of the points that was mentioned just now. So one of the greatest challenges really is financial literacy, getting it to the masses, to the grassroots. And I think one of the primary avenues or venues that we have is opportunities like this to speak to students, to touch and unearth and educate the younger generation also. But from that perspective, we also understand that financial literacy can kind of sometimes be intimidating. There's that connotation, or it can be overwhelming. So for the younger generation, for students, how can we laymanize it, I think, and make it more accessible, make it more approachable, or make it cool, kumbaga, no? For students, or even not just in college, but even maybe as early as high school or even grade school, starting with the concepts of saving and on all of that. If anyone would have some insights there or some pointers that you'd like to touch on.
So I'd like just to pull up from a personal experience now. So since for Union Bank, CSR was closely tied to sustainability. So when we were proposing financial literacy sessions also to one of the communities we'd like to partner with, the program director from that partner, they immediately said, "Oh, financial literacy, that might be problematic in terms of the topics that you're going to discuss, because these people would tend to be dismissive about it, because they would say, how would I do how would I save anyway if the things that are part of my spending, that my day-to-day spending would far exceed what I'm actually earning. So what is there for me to save? So what what point is there to actually attend a financial literacy program? So you're right. So I think it's really more of a change in mindset that really needs to be done, and see what are the opportunities out there for these communities, so that they would not be dismissive about it. And I think for us, really, how we would inspire them in a way, to actually start thinking about their financials, is to really make it as relatable as possible. So let them think about what goals or aspirations do they actually have, what are the things that they would like to achieve, and from there they would find that intrinsic motivation to actually go there. So I know it's quite motherhood, so to speak, no? But in some ways, it's actually effective because it drives people if there's a motivating factor behind what they do.
Okay, if I can, maybe I can share what the Honorable Benjamin Jokno mentioned this morning, and also from the gentleman from Phoenix. They were talking about promoting financial literacy in the schools through the Department of Education. And I think this is a very good avenue to promote financial literacy as young as high school, as well as college. And I know some financial institutions who are having these projects about financial literacy, creating modules. I am familiar with one of the financial institutions because they also got me as one who prepared the module, and together with the central bank, insurance company, SEC, we are collaborating to create that module that will be used for the universities, several universities. And I think it's really very important that we should promote financial literacy. And for my example, I'm doing it voluntarily, actually. All the pictures that I showed in my presentation, it's a voluntary work, personally coming from me. Thank you.
And further to that, I think in Singapore, they start from the age of 9 or 10, no? In terms of financial literacy. There are already courses about it. So maybe even has to go before university level, even at a younger age. What I'd like to throw also to the fore is we're talking about relating financial literacy to sustainability. But I've always mentioned this also. This is like something that it's like something I've carried for several years now. But for me, the problem with trickle down for sustainability is that it's still couched in English. It's never connected or said in Filipino. Whereas if you go to like Indonesia, I'm sure it's said in Bahasa. In Japanese, you're going to talk sustainability, it's in Japanese, in Ipongo or something. But here in the Philippines, we've not created a unified or agreed upon terminology for sustainability. That then, how do you expect it to trickle down to certain economic demographics if you're going to still be couching it in English all the time? I'd like you to comment on that.
So I agree. I very much agree. I feel like there is still so much that we can do in order to make it relatable, right? A lot of these things have to start in formal, structured educational programs, but I think a lot of this can also start within the homes, right? Within the education that our parents give us. So I think so many things that we can do. I especially agree with the point where financial literacy is always in English. I think that's something that we want to change, especially to make it more relatable to the masses. So yes, definitely agree. So many things that we can do.
And it also just keeps the impression that it's very elitist, di ba?
Correct.
Whether you're talking
I agree.
sustainability or no.
I agree.
Yes, if I can also mention that when I talk to the young mothers, I mean the mothers in the what do you call this? Dwellers, informal settlers, I use Tagalog. And even the youth from Pasig, in my picture, I use also Tagalog. So
It's easier when it's financial literacy, but sustainability, parang there's no terms really, no, that are used and agreed upon.
it was also in the preparation of our module for that financial institution. Central Bank recommended that we should put some Tagalog sentences in the module so that not all universities are like De La Salle, if I can say it, or Ateneo. So we were using also the Filipino language.
Yeah, if I may add, okay, papunta tayo sa magandang usapan. Let's talk about you touched on a very, for me, I'm passionate about it. Psikolohiyang Pilipino tayo. Sustainability is actually an introduced concept to us from the Western. You want loans? Oh, let's do ESG indicators. Let's do ESG metrics, economic, envy, social, governance, things like that. Pero hindi siya mata-translate immediately to, kayo guys, sustainability. Ako, I've been practicing sustainability 20 years now. When I tell people, my kids, when I tell them, Dad, what's your work? Sustainability. What's that? Ang hirap, true. And I guess it's now time to really claim it and contextualize it. To me, regardless of the language or the taxonomy, if you will, to refer to sustainability, the best way to teach sustainability is for people to do it in our context. Okay, example, envy, ano yan? Kalikasan. As simple as tree planting, coastal cleanup, diba? Magtanim ng gulay sa bakuran kasi pwede mo siyang gawing pangkain. So those are you Filipinize, you take charge, i-hijack mo yung concept na inintroduce ng West sa atin, diba? Probably, I don't know, later on PSE or BSP can have a Filipinized version of sustainability fund, ESG fund that's working for not just the environment, Filipino entrepreneurs, for instance. Sustainability fund, I don't know, Indonesian baka ginawa nilang sustainability. Alam mo yan? Like ginawang I, yung Y. for Filipinos have the tendency to be like that. So, I guess beyond than that taxonomy, it's really putting that into our context. Envy is kalikasan. Social is kabuhayan. Kung gusto mo ng deeper application, bayanihan, diba? Governance, ano siya? Hindi lang mabait, mabuting tao. That we can, deeper siya. Kung i-transpose and i-lay over mo siya with Filipino words and concepts, marami siya actually applications. And I think if we do it that way, we will have a richer implementation of sustainability given that context. That's what we're trying to do. Aside from my East-West Bank hat, I also run a non-profit called Sustainability PH. We teach sustainability and contextualize it for young kids. We have Climate Fresh, claymanizing the science of climate change without bleeding your nose. But at the end of the day, we connect it to the context of our society. So there. We have a community of sustainability practitioners and we design programs that respond to their unique situation. So it's really a movement, but yes, we need to do more than that. So yeah, my few cents.
No, but thank you for that.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna say that I'm actually part of the one of the mentees under Sir Dave with the program of Sustainability PH, and yeah, so it's really to his point. I guess sustainability it has for us to have a better understanding of it with the absence of the Filipinized term for it is to actually experience it also the Filipino way. So he mentioned the fresks, some of the activities that he would do in the program that he's a part of. It's really hands-on experience for us to understand what sustainability is all about. And I guess that is how also we would, in our own ways, be able to translate it or communicate it to the people. But yeah, agree. We're just a few so far who understand what sustainability is, and then we are a big nation, And so it's going to be really a challenge if we want it to be something that's easily understood by everyone.
All right, thank you very much. So while we're keeping this conversation going, if anyone has any questions, please feel free. I think we have one here, this gentleman. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good afternoon po. So my question is, given the emerging trends and given Senator Bam's proposal regarding blockchain technology in government procurements, how do you think would it affect the future?
Okay, so I think the question is about the implementation of blockchain technology for government procurement and transparency, essentially.
If I watched the talk of Mr. Magalong, the mayor of Baguio City, about blockchain, and it's like my understanding is all about transparency and good governance. So if it will be effectively implemented, we will have a better Philippine country. So it will be good for us, and the funds that would be diverted to some few people and just waste it will be avoided, and we will have a better economy. At the same time, the quality of life of every Filipino will be upgraded. So I think if the government will implement that, that would be a good way of improving our situation.
Yeah, so I totally agree. So that actually,
Yeah,
so that's why I'm poised to agree to what Ms. Gemma said. Because in Union Bank, we actually utilize blockchain technology with some, if not all, of our products and services. So yes, it's indeed much used for transparency, for having that one source of truth. That's actually one use case for blockchain technology, and that's totally right. So
But-
if it's something that's used effectively, then
But I'd also like to point out, and maybe you can comment, we're now pushing for transparency, when in fact checks and balances have been in existence within our government structure for decades since the beginning. So there's always been a failure in the systemic, there's a systemic failure in how these things operate. And so I just wonder later on, you do the blockchain, will there be a way around it, et cetera, et cetera? How resourceful is the Filipino politician, the Filipino contractors? How resourceful will they be? Because in the end of the day, you also had like pork barrel. You eliminated pork barrel. And then now you had flood control projects come in, which practically took the place of what were existing as the pork barrel patronage structure. Diba? So they'll always find something new also. So I think what the kids also here have to understand is it's a constant vigilance. It's not just saying that, hey, blockchain now exists, we're now solving the problem.
Yes, I agree with you. It's really up to our leaders on how we will have a better country. And before I will continue, I would like to acknowledge he's one of my students who raised the question, and I'm very proud. It's really up to the government, to the leaders on how they are going to implement the proper way of doing things. And if we can recall during the Bangladesh heist, remember, if you are familiar with what happened, it went through the casino. Can you just imagine making the anti-money laundering law, with due respect with everyone, I'm just saying the facts, that with the anti-money laundering law, they created that law, right? However, they put the casino as the gateway, meaning to say everyone should follow the law. However, they exempted the casino. That's why the money went to the casino. So it's really, the gentleman here, Mr. Philip, is right. We really have to be vigilant. And I think it's really every person, every Filipino has the role to fight for it. I am very quiet, but I am praying a lot every day that our leaders will change, can you just imagine the money wasted? They are using it for their own consumption, for their own personal gain. And if I can say, the word nakakahiya, wala na ngayon. Let's return it back. Mahiya tayo sa sarili natin, lalo na para mahiya tayo sa ginagawa po natin. Salamat.
I think if I can just add to that point, and maybe Sir Japheth, you can, as the tech person here for blockchain. No, but I think one of the benefits then kasi is because through the blockchain technology, it will also be visible, right, to regular Filipinos as well, because it keeps a record of all the transactions that happen. So the vigilance actually also, we have a part to play in it. It's not just the expectation that, it's all about the leadership that's there, but it's also the responsibility that we have as citizens to hold them accountable and have those platforms in place to maintain that, right? Because obviously right now, as Philip mentioned, the systemic failures really because the check and balances are so centralized within the government itself that yun nga yung problem na there's little monitoring outside of that. So I don't know if I'm correct with my understanding of the technology, but as far as I know, that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, of course, definitely, you're correct. For sure, but to Sir Philip's point, yeah, so blockchain, again, is yet another technology, much like artificial intelligence. A lot of these things have a lot of positive uses nowadays, but at the same time, it could also be used by people with evil intentions. So again, it also boils down to that first question that we had this afternoon on what's that most pressing problem that we have, and Ms. Gemma answered earlier. It's really corruption, the lack of integrity in our in leaders and in some people in position or in power, right? So it's really there. So more on the person already, rather than the tools. At the end of the day, tools are just there. It depends on how we use it.
If I may add, okay, blockchain, ano siya? Like sustainability, madali ba siya ipaliwanag? To the point of Sir Philip, right? Sustainability, 30 years, papasukan mo ng blockchain. I will ask the room here, does everyone understand what blockchain technology is, right? Ako, limited ang understanding ko, but when I was with Union Bank, somebody told me, it's a ledger, essentially, a notebook to document. That ledger will not allow erasures. Or insertions, right? So everyone who wrote on the ledger will have a footprint, a fingerprint, unique to that person. Over time, traceable siya. Good. What that teaches us is the behavior of transparency, honesty, consistency, right? But then again, it's a new technology for some, and most Filipinos. Tanungin ko kanina yung binilhan ko ng candy sa labas. Ate, ano mo, blockchain, madedemand mo ba yon? Kaya the goal now here is, and this is what I'm saying, technology for good. Yes, I'm there. AI for good. Yes, digital banking. But you know what happened to us? And I can really say this. Iba yung education ko. I don't know. Ilang taon na ba ako? 43. When I was in elementary, diba? Because people, the Filipinos, are kept ignorant and illiterate. Financial illiteracy is one of that. So imagine be introducing a new technology, but you don't empower citizens to question that, to fully understand what that is. So that's one. And it's up to you guys, please. Let's bring back that kind of critical thinking. Yun yung nawawala sa atin. Critical thinking and maging makulit. Demand of these from government services. Yes, may blockchain. Pwede mo na gamitin. LTO, ano bang record dyan? Pag nag-renew ka ng lisensya mo, nag-apply ka for barangay clearance or whatever, NBI clearance and all. So it starts with you guys. Yes, it's really not just the technology, but I guess there needs to be a revolution of thinking. Citizenry, empowered, educated, fully well. So that when these things are introduced, we can really demand accountability from the government.
I'm just asking, how many here in this room were part of the September 21 March, the trillion peso march? And you also had a walkout every Friday, here in Lasal. And how many will be joining the November 30? Or planning to join the November 30?
Come on, guys.
Okay. Shouldn't there be more people raising their hands? I don't know. I mean, we were talking here for the longest time about vigilance and about integrity. Shouldn't there be more people? Yeah, raise their hands higher, according to your professor.
Show of hands. Show of hands.
Well, would you care to know also that we in the media are also getting news, though, that the November 30 is supposed to be infiltrated by Iglesia, more than 1 million protesters, but they're going to turn that November 30 into a resign Marcos, bring Sara to the palace march. So you see, that's what I'm just talking about, obfuscation of the truth, or of how whatever you guys are doing can also be manipulated for other things. No? So I mean, that's where we're talking about vigilance nga, no?
All right. Wonderful discussions that we're having. I'm totally for it, but in the interest of time, I think we have time for one more question. So, yes, ma'am, please feel free to approach the mic. We'll have this as our last question for this afternoon.
Hi everyone. Thanks for being here and for talking. Taking a little bit of your time. I'm just really curious. Someone mentioned here that, especially in Visayas and Mindanao, of course, they're not as technically advanced as here in in Metro Manila. So I'm a bit veering away from the corruption. I'm really just curious about we're talking about sustainability, and of course, being sustainable. I think that includes being inclusive as well, right? It's been mentioned being inclusive with a lot of different people, and I'm really curious, especially with digital banking, right? How do digital banking approach or make your services more accessible to those in those regions where they're not really more technically advanced, or they don't have the resources to be able to access digital banking and those kinds of things?
Okay, as the representative of the digital banking space, I will answer that question. Thank you. Thanks for that question. So there are actually many things that we do, right? I think the very basic one that we do is presence, right? And when I say present, we're actually on the ground. We have kiosks in Visayas and Mindanao that cater to the region. So customers of Visayas and Mindanao do not need to go to Manila or call a hotline. They actually have services very near their area that can facilitate any service that they'd like to, not any, but they can provide support, right, wherever it's applicable. So presence is one. The type of presence is also a little bit different. So obviously the service is a little bit different from what you would see here in Metro Manila, right? For example, I go back to language, right? But for example, the materials that we use for our activations or our programs in Visayas and Mindanao are in a different language. They are offered in the local language, right? So that's number one. The second thing is, even the messaging that we use is tailored to the behavior that we see within that area. For example, right, here in Metro Manila, cash-ins are a lot more electronic. So we see a lot of customers cashing in via InstaPay, whereas with other areas in the Philippines, the behavior is a little bit different. They do a lot of machine cash-ins, over-the-counter cash-ins, etc. So the way with which we shift the behavior, or the way with which we kind of talk to the customers and shape the messaging, shape the content of the things that we talk to them about, is also a bit different based on the segment that we see, right? So I think in terms of content, in terms of manner and matter, there's obviously substantial substantial differences with the way we interact with the customer. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody would like to add before we close off our panel discussion? We're good? All right. Then thank you very much to our speakers. A round of applause, please, for all of them.